What are some red flags in an interview that reveals the job is toxic? I interviewed for one once where the manager spent the whole time asking me the usual questions in between rounds of berating some poor tech support employee on the phone about their payroll software. Also, anytime our hiring manager talks up the company's bonuses and raises to justify their low salary, you'd better believe you're not actually getting either. Trying to get you to agree to start before they tell you what you'll be paid. If you hear the word sales mentioned anywhere in the job description, then sales will be your main job. An interviewer tried to convince me to lowball myself after I said what I'd accept as a minimum salary, which was in their offer range from the posting. If we pay you more, you wouldn't get a bonus at the end of the year, and you'd be really upset when everyone else got one. What he was able to offer salary-wise was $10,000 below their posted range. I'd rather get a salary than a bonus anyway. A salary is guaranteed, a bonus is not. The interviewer keeps telling you how fortunate you are to be there, like they are doing you a favor by giving you the job. Once you realize that all upper management is family, this, or they're all from the same church or community, nothing like being passed for a promotion by the new guy because he's with the higher-ups every Sunday, despite being totally incompetent at the actual job. Classic nepotism. What did you earn at your previous occupation? We are not looking for someone with a 9-to-5 mentality. Here you will truly be a part of the corporation family. I remember it was kind of a breath of fresh air. When I took my current job's interview, they said bluntly, most people get turned off by the idea of a 9-to-5 nowadays, but that unfortunately is exactly what this is. You can make it 8-to-4 if you want, but none of us really want to get up that early if we don't have to, and you're also in that boat. Turned out to be an awesome job, very laid back and realistic. Everyone is just trying to make sure that everyone else goes home on time. Sometimes we end up staying an hour late at most, but it never feels like a chore, mostly because I know I could have left on time, and no one would have said anything about it. I'm just doing it to help my team. They really are just friends at this point. I drove about 4 hours to an interview in another city. I told the person interviewing me that I was happy at my current job and wouldn't consider leaving just for the higher pay. He stood up and looked over the cubicle walls to make sure no one was around and whispered, "You don't want to work here." I passed on that job, but while in the new city, I applied for another job where I have been happy for the last 25 plus years. We'll start you at minimum and re-evaluate in a month, which turns into a year. In one interview, and as enthusiastically assured that overtime wasn't an issue. But if you pick up an extra shift, they pay in gift cards so that it saves you on taxes. I know they're trying to save themselves employment taxes and time and a half. They're not doing me any favors. I decline their offer. It's an older, established company, but everyone working there is young, new aside from the higher-ups. Also, if you ask what's the best part about working there, and they address things like, oh, it's a great location, or we get free lunch, instead of saying what they like about the actual job or company. I once had a job interview where I asked the two interviewers what they liked about working there. They looked at each other in horror and laughed. No thanks. My biggest red flag is anytime free food gets mentioned as a perk. It's like they're trying to show they care about their staff's health and well-being by bringing in free bagels on Fridays. Once I had an interview where they silently gave me a questionnaire to fill out 450 questions and just went to another room. The questions were very detailed and stupid, mostly about money. Is your goal to make money in our company? If the answer is yes, then you didn't pass. I left before I even finished answering this list, and then I found out that they register employees for an incredibly low official salary, promising to pay most of it at the end of the month. But they delayed money for 6 months and don't give it out. If the person quits, I'm glad I left. High turnover rates can be a red flag, but they are also just more common in certain jobs than others, retail, food service, etc. However, if they ever say people just don't want to work anymore or something similar, run. They won't value your time as an employee. Pay is likely to be very low. Management is going to be incompetent and or overbearing. and options for raises, promotions, or career advancement are going to be minimal to none. Basically just a code word for saying that they pay or treat their employees very poorly. If you offer a good salary and treat your employees well, you won't have an issue hiring and retaining employees. Second-hand info, but one of my co-workers told me an interviewer asked for her social media passwords to expedite their background check. She did not comply and bailed on the whole interview. It was some small IT firm that got government contracts. Don't recall the name, and I'm not going to guess because I don't want to smear the wrong employer. I only remember the story because we were all shocked at the audacity. If it seems like nobody has a personality, I always make it a point to make some small talk with receptionists or people interviewing me. If they shut it down immediately or just otherwise give off a "WTF are you talking to me" vibe. Nope, this is so important. The writing is on the wall. When the existing employees are unkind to each other, you can 100% expect them to be unkind to you. This might be too specific, but I saw several red flags the last times I interviewed and one before even walking in. I interviewed at 2 companies that both had me talk to multiple people, specifically the office manager. One also had a higher level manager present, my potential department head if it wasn't the manager, yes, a recruiter, and 1 to 2 people either working in my department or doing a similar role. At both companies, only the recruiter seemed to be in a good mood, almost happy. The management and staff looked absolutely miserable and completely uninterested in interviewing me. First red flag, thinking too much interpretation. Everybody was overworked and miserable, and the recruiters were just happy to have people interviewing. I asked them if any special licenses or registrations were required for the job, which they said no, and one employee accidentally let on that I was the most licensed candidate they'd interviewed. Second red flag, the job would have very little to do with my credentials even though the listing said they were a plus to have. The third red flag was combining two things that a manager said. You have to be adaptable and be ready to take on tasks that may not be part of your daily duties. We're looking for someone passionate about the industry, not a 9 to 5 clock puncher. In other words, I'm going to work more than 8 hours a day and probably do other people's jobs. Also, 0th red flag, the entire job per the description was something that the company I worked at had made completely obsolete with software, generating paperwork for clients to sign when they open new accounts. When I asked the manager about the risk of being outsourced, she gave me a very political non-answer like, "We're aware of advances in technology causing changes within the industry. Our company will assess whether these changes are beneficial or not. Read, you'll likely be laid off with the next software update." When they don't realize that you're interviewing each other. When it's my turn for questions, I ask about the staff workplace culture. I get them to mention turnover. If it's low turnover, it's good. If it's high, it's toxic and you should run. Edit in case anyone is still reading. By low I mean stays in job more than 2 years, and high I mean leaves before 6 months. I interviewed years ago at a place known for very high turnovers, and they would have a mass layoff after a contract was complete and then hire again. When they got a new contract, I asked about this in my interview, and the person interviewing me pretty much admitted to it all, and I told them I needed stability. I did an interview 2 days ago, and the red flags I saw were, first, not sticking to the agreed upon time that they chose. We began 40 minutes late. Second, they were rushing through the questions and kept saying they were short on time. Third, what's your current salary? Fourth, don't expect a standard 8 to 4. This position requires long hours, some weekends and public holidays. We need to make sure you understand this, and also are you married or got any kids? Fifth, listing responsibilities not mentioned at all in the job description. As an insights analyst, why would I have to do site visits? Sixth, I pulled out a small book with my questions. They looked nervous because short on time, and they kept saying they were hungry and didn't eat all day, etc. Seventh, asking me for ideas on how to improve their app. How would I go about starting this one specific project, etc. People are suggesting some real big ticket red flags. A more subtle question I always ask the interviewer, what their favorite part of the job is. If they answer anything not directly related to their job, like flexible hours, intramural sports leagues, the area they hate their job. The question is also a great way to draw out the red flags. Others are mentioning like we're all a family, or we work hard, play hard. They don't explain their business clearly. Neither do they give you good clarity on your role. I once had an interview with a small company. The director who took my interview was being very vague about what they do. Most of her answers were "you'll understand better once you start working." I took the offer, worked for a week and realized it's just a pyramid scheme. I turned up for casual work at an Amazon warehouse and was told we weren't allowed to wear watches. Add that to the thuggish security staff, the sarcastic, depressed-looking supervisors, and the multitude of petty rules, and the place was practically covered in red flags. I left at lunch break and never went back. "You'll wear many hats" equals we refuse to hire necessary staff, so you'll have to do their job for free. "We have a competitive salary" equals we'll pay you a penny over minimum wage. "We're like a family here" equals we don't have company phones, so we'll call your personal phone on Sunday at 2 p.m. There's also no HR department. "We're looking for someone who can hit the ground running" equals we're in a tailspin and don't have time to train you. "You need to be a strong person to work here" equals we're going to emotionally and verbally abuse you and blame you for it. Share any red flags you've encountered in job interviews in the comments. That wraps up this video. Thanks for tuning in.